Welcome back, my Exotic Car Play Place friends. Thanks for joining in again today. Recently, if you guys know, I bought not one, but two luxury cars. One for myself, one for my wife. There's a lot of tips that I want to share with you guys today and some reasoning why you may want to buy yourself a used luxury car versus a brand new one. We're going to get into some of the tips and some of the justifications why that really is, so you guys can too make a great educated decision on what your next car is all about. Let's get into it now. So before I get into the actual tips, everyone, I want to be sure to explain the benefits of buying a used luxury car or performance car or premium car over a brand new one. Well, first of all, obviously with what's going on around us right now, there's been lots of shutdowns at the factories. So inventory is very, very low on new cars. What there is, in fact, is increased inventory on the used car market. Now, even though there's not a mass abundance, there generally is more selection on the used car market for a few reasons. Number one, those are the only ones really moving around right now. Some people are trying to release these vehicles. Some people may be looking at trading them in. There's lots of lease returns coming back as well out there. So it doesn't matter what brand you're looking at, whether it's a Benz or a Lexus or a Porsche or whatever, chances are there's always going to be some level of lease returns available. Those are the ones you may want to investigate. Another thing you have to understand is why it is actually better to buy a used luxury car. Well, I'll give you some examples. Recently I bought the Jaguar F-Type R. $130,000 brand new was the base MSRP on it. I bought that. It had about 20,000 miles on it when I bought it. I was able to wrangle in an extra CPO extended warranty on it. And on top of that, the best thing about all of it was that I picked the car up for $75,000. That's a little under half of its original value in 2 years. Another great example is my wife's 2018 C300 Mercedes Coupe. Obviously another one we recently bought, 2 years of age, just came back. It was obviously super low kilometers. It only had, I think, 20,000 kilometers on it. And guess what? We also managed to get the additional CPO warranty plugged onto that car, and we got it for a song and a dance. Also saved a pile of cash on that. Let me show you some other examples. Maybe some of you guys are into the BMW markets. How about an M3 or an M4? Well, the outgoing models are actually losing value at an alarming rate. In other words, you can get yourself a 16 or a 17 model year. What was a car that was worth about 110 grand brand new, you can now find them for about $40,000 to $50,000 after 3 or 4 years of age. That is a huge savings. So you can't help but ask yourself, why would you buy a new car when you can buy them slightly used? And if you play your cards right, you'll buy it from a reputable dealer and you'll also get an additional CPO warranty on it. But there's some other tips and tricks and we're going to dive into that. So let's move things right along. So before we get into some of the tips, I want to explain a few of the benefits why you would buy a used luxury car over a brand new one. Number one is, we already know, I've explained it in previous videos, leasing is not necessarily the best use of your money in financial terms. If you're buying a car, a lot of people like a lease because they can step into it, make their payments, and walk away from it. But sadly, that is always your worst case scenario. You're always going to come out upside down on your lending, and you're always going to be putting money into the system and never really getting much out of it, other than the fact that you have a brand new car always in your garage. But that's never the best way to go. So the fact is, buying a used vehicle would kind of eliminate the leasing factor anyway, and that doesn't matter because I don't truly believe leasing is really a great way to go. Now, moving along, another obvious reason, which I explained already, is the fact of depreciation. We already know most of these premium luxury cars lose 40, 50, 60% of their original value in 3 to 4 years. So on one hand, that's rotten for the person buying that car brand new, but on the other hand, that's amazing for you guys who are buying that car at 3 years of age and getting it a CPO warranty and able to enjoy that car to the full extent that that guy did as a new car owner. But you don't have to pay the new car price. So that is a huge benefit. You can save a huge chunk of change. Another benefit that doesn't always play out this way, but often does, and that's when you lease a car or you buy a car brand new, often your insurance may be a little bit higher, especially if you have a lease. The lease is going to confirm that you have to take certain levels of insurance coverage. That's going to push your insurance rates up. If you buy the car slightly used, you might opt out of some of the features. Sure, you might put on collision coverage, and obviously you have to put on liability, but you might opt out of glass, or you might opt out of some other level of comprehensive just to save some cash. So often you're going to save some money by buying a car slightly used versus new. And also, cars are generally ranked a little higher as brand new anyhow, so you're likely going to save a few bucks along the way. So let's dive right into some of the actual tips. Tip number one really is your budget. Now, I've explained this in previous videos as well. Don't walk into a dealership saying, my monthly budget is X, like say $300 or $400 or $500 a month. As soon as you do that, the dealer's going to take you for a ride. They're going to make it all fit within that budget. It might push out your monthly payments, and you might wind up paying that down in a 7-year term or an 84-month term. You don't want that. You want to pay that car down as soon as possible. So you want to reduce the overall term on your lending, but you still really should ultimately know what your max spend is on that car. Think of it in terms of outright full dollar amount. Don't think of monthly payment. Think of what is your full dollar amount. You know, do I want to pay $30,000 for that car? $50,000, $80,000, $100,000. Those are the things you have to look at. And then you can reverse calculate and understand and figure out what your monthly payment will be from there. But don't start with your monthly and work your way back. Otherwise, you will be taken for a ride. So know your budget and stick to it. So on top of making sure that you have your budget sort of set out and established, you want to be able to do your research. So before you even start walking into the dealerships, know what you're kind of looking for. I know I had a similar issue when my wife was looking for a Mercedes. We weren't totally sure what she wanted yet. Was it a car? Was it an SUV? Did it have to be all-wheel drive, 2-door, 4-door, standard, manual, double clutch? There's a lot of different options, and there's a lot of great options on the market. So it became very, very difficult. And the more we looked, the more it became challenging to hone in on really what we wanted. But that's the worst thing you can do, is walk around aimlessly into the dealership and then out you go with the wrong vehicle. And the vehicle of not your choice, the vehicle that the dealer wants you to drive because it's a vehicle maybe that they want to get rid of, and you wind up holding the keys to that. So don't get stuck in that predicament. Be sure that you know what the car is that you need. So can you afford it? What's your budget? And as well, the type of car that's going to suit your needs. Are you more into the performance game, or you look the sounds, or the electronics and the features and the technology? You know, is it a versatility thing for you, and the number of doors or passenger space? You've got to know all those things before you even get into it. Now, it's okay to go shopping and test drive a few cars, absolutely. But I think you really do need to understand what those games are. So you might want to go into a dealer and you might want to try out, say, a C-Class, a C300. That's a 4-door Mercedes. Then you want to go to BMW and try out their 3 Series, compare that back to back. Then you might want to go over to Audi and try an A4. See, you want to try from each brand because that's going to tell you a few things. But at least you've narrowed down, you know, it's a 4-door car, it's a sedan, all-wheel drive, and it has certain amenities. So make sure you know what you're buying before you even head into the dealership doors. So the second big tip that I can offer you guys is check out the vehicle properly. I actually walked into what you'd consider a mainstream, high-class, high-quality, luxury brand, luxury manufacturer dealership here locally, walked in there, looked at a vehicle, took it for a test drive, it ran fine, asked all the right questions. They even advertised it as a CPO potential opportunity. But then after I asked for the Carfax or car proof, it spit it out. I looked at it and there was accident history on the vehicle. And this was sold at a local dealership, a high-end dealership, not one of those scabby little corner lots, but a real legitimate dealership. So you've got to ask the right questions. A, where's it from? Do not buy a vehicle from the Eastern Board. Like, for example, don't buy a vehicle from, say New York area, Toronto, Ontario, Montreal, Quebec, in Eastern Canada or Eastern US where they use a lot of salt and sand. Try to avoid those vehicles because likely they're already got some corrosion setting in. So make sure whatever you're searching for isn't from those parts of the country if you can help it. Another thing, be sure to check those car proofs and Carfax so there's no accident history and that you have a better understanding as well as to who registered it, where it was registered, and how many owners the vehicle has been through. So those are the things you want to do. You also want to do some basic checks. Don't just take their word for it. Look it over. Drive the car. Does it track straight? Does it make weird noises? Does it have a cold engine knock? Does it sound weird? Does it turn in properly? Do the brakes pulsate when you hit them? Do all the electronics work? And try everything. Try all the power windows and sunroofs and air conditioning. Throw them all on as you get in. Literally start flicking buttons, making sure everything operates, and then return them back to normal. check the tire wear. Now, it doesn't mean you have a tire wear indicator on you. That doesn't matter, but you can get a pretty good idea of uneven tire wear. Check the exhaust tips, because often too much carbon or oil or moisture in the exhaust would be indicative to problems. So check all those things out. Those are the easy things. If there's any question and the vehicle's on the cusp of being out of warranty or it doesn't have warranty at all, be sure to get a PPI, so a pre-purchase inspection done. Otherwise, the CPO warranty hopefully will cover you off. But again, be sure the vehicle has no accident history, because you'll never sell that car again if it does. And be sure that all the mechanical and the maintenance is up to snuff. The third tip is actually the maintenance perspective. Be sure the vehicle's had the correct amount of maintenance. Let's face it, you get into a Jaguar F-Type R and you look at the skins around that and it's P0s. If you had to change a full set of tires, you're into it for $3,000 right off the hop. Set of brakes? If you're driving a car or looking at a car that has carbon ceramic, did you know you buy a 911 with carbon ceramic brakes, you can expect to pay $15,000 to $20,000 for refurbishment on the brake system. If you buy a Ferrari, it's closer to $40,000, $50,000 to do a set of brakes if they're carbon ceramic. If they're steel brakes and they're oversized, it's still going to cost you some bucks if you're buying a premium, especially a high performance vehicle. So be sure the maintenance is done. Make sure all the oil changes are done and the servicing has been up to date. What you don't want to have done is you move in, you buy the car, say for example at 80,000 kilometers, and all of a sudden at 100,000 it needs a major service that's going to cost you $10,000. As well as if you're buying some of those older classic cars, maybe a Lamborghini Gallardo, or you're looking at a BMW M5, the E60, or vehicles that have a high tendency for wear. Clutches can wear out very quickly in some of those cars. Be sure the clutches have been done and they're up to date, because it's not uncommon to have to spend $10,000 into clutch job. So be sure all the maintenance is up to snuff. That's part of the research too, is understanding the weaknesses and the Achilles of every one of these vehicles that you're shopping for. Do the research. It'll tell you everything you need to know, and then you watch for those points. And another tip when you're buying a car used is it's not wrong to buy a car used from a private sale. As a matter of fact, sometimes some of the best buys can happen through the private market. But just understand that when you do that, often you forego the opportunity to buy a CPO warranty. So pick and choose wisely. If it's a great deal and all the numbers add up and all the maintenance is in place and the car is absolutely immaculate and everything else checks out for history, then sure, private deals can often be a great way to buy a car. But personally, if you're buying a car 2 or 3 years old, you want to get a CPO warranty on it, go to the dealer. That's my first recommendation, because you can get that extra warranty and that's going to help you, and that'll extend things out for a period of time. As well as the dealer might have access to some of the service history, and as well, if there's any, say, firmware updates or other updates that are needed for that particular car, chances are they know what it means. If you go to a Jaguar dealer, they probably know that it might need a firmware update, and they probably know that there's, what the history is on that particular car. If you buy a Jaguar at an Audi dealership, chances are they don't know sweet tweet about that car, and they're probably going to have to get it sent out to the Jaguar dealer anyhow to have it checked out further in more depth. So it's ideal to buy from the right dealer and an authorized dealer, so you can get that extra warranty, and obviously then there's a little more backing if something goes off the rails. So these are some basic tips that I live by every time I'm purchasing a car. It helped me when I bought the F-Type, it helped me when I bought the Benz, and it helped me when I bought most of the cars in my past. Be sure to follow similar rules, because they will help you. The more diligence you do out on the front side, the better chance you'll enjoy the driving experience, and less likely you're going to get smoked and ripped off by that cheesy and greasy dealer. And since I know you guys found this information really helpful, let me also add right there, click on that video. You're going to like that one, because that's the 10 best, most economical luxury cars available this year in 2020. You're really going to enjoy that. Make sure you explore it. You might find the car of your dreams tucked away in that video. Hope to see you guys real soon. Bye-bye.